Last August, as some may remember, there was a total eclipse of the moon. I'm not sure which parts of the world it happened in, but I know that it was supposed to happen on the west coast at 3 a.m. in the morning. My boyfriend and two roommates had all been looking forward to it for a long time because there hadn't been a lunar eclipse in our town since I was in the 3rd grade. I was 19 when this eclipse happened, so we decided to make a night of it and kind of make it a special occasion. We all had the next day off, so we had dinner and a few drinks. At about 1 a.m. in the morning, we left to go for a walk and figure out where we were going to watch from. First, we decided to try our roof, but once we got up there, we noticed that you couldn't see the moon past the trees, so we all started to climb back down the ladder. Now, I am terrified of heights. Once I get up on the roof, I am like a caterpillar. I can't stand, I just wiggle around. So my boyfriend decided to go down first so he could catch me if I started to panic and fall, which was very likely. My roommate held the ladder from the top. While I was going down, I looked through the window into our living room. The ladder was in front of the window. On the other side of the room, there is another window the same size, so they face each other. The curtains on the opposite window were closed and the lights were off. This is where it gets weird. I stopped because I saw a shadow on the curtains on the other window. At first I thought it was my own shadow, but it was so big. I started to wave one of my arms, but the arm on the shadow didn't move. Then I realized that the lights were off, so there really couldn't be a shadow for me anyways. I was just staring at it while everyone was trying to talk to me. Then all of a sudden, the shadow raised one of its hands in a fist and then started to walk towards me. It looked like it was walking in slow motion, but it was still moving across the room fast. I got so scared, I let go of the ladder and fell. I was caught and not hurt, but I was shaken up so much I started to cry. I went towards the street, and then once everyone got there, I said what happened. And they responded that it might be a good idea just to go for a walk and stay out of the house for a while. We walked to the park, watched the eclipse, then headed home. Once we got back, we were sitting there watching the Colbert Report, and all of a sudden, one of my roommates turned to my boyfriend and said, "When your uncle was alive, did he used to agree with people a lot, but then add something to what they said?" Weirdest question to ask about the man I know. If anyone has an idea of what this might mean, please let me know. Well, my boyfriend looked at her and was like, "Well, yeah, I guess so." He used to kind of like go, "Oh yeah, you're right, but," then add something. Well, my roommate started crying and just got up and left the room. The next morning, her boyfriend, who also lives there, was sitting with us watching TV while she was still asleep. We asked him what her deal was, and he told us that she saw a man sitting in the chair next to my boyfriend, and he kept interrupting her thoughts. She would think something, then she would hear him say, "Oh yeah, you're right, but," then add something. Apparently, when she asked my boyfriend that question, the ghost did the same thing, but then added something scary, which is what made her cry. Apparently, she wouldn't even tell her boyfriend what he said. All she would say was that he told her to ask that question, and then he got really mad when my boyfriend answered. Today, I'm going to share with you my worst paranormal experience. I don't know if it was paranormal or something demonic. This incident happened to me when I was in my village again. It was summer holidays. My sis and I were at our village. My parents could not come as they had some work. In my village, we usually sleep on our house's roof during summer nights. It was a full moon night. After having dinner, we were preparing to sleep. My grandpa, sis, and I were the ones who slept on the roof. Grandpa didn't feel comfortable, so he slept downstairs. While going to sleep, I took my grandpa's phone to play games as my phone's battery was dead. So, we went to sleep. Grandma made the bed and we laid down to sleep. I was sleeping in between my grandma and sis. One thing I forgot to tell you is that my grandpa has a habit of waking up at nights and taking small distance walks on the veranda of the house, so he always sets an alarm in his phone to help him wake up. Now, going back to the story, I was playing games in my grandpa's phone when I fell asleep. I woke up at night to the sound of the phone's alarm ringing. It was 2 a.m. I switched off the phone and was about to sleep when I saw my sis standing at the edge of the roof, facing the other side. I was quite baffled to see her there at that time. I asked her to come back and sleep. She said she would come back just in 2 minutes. I was feeling quite sleepy, so I turned around to sleep and got the biggest shock of my life when I saw her sleeping right beside me. I couldn't believe my eyes. I turned around and she was still standing there. I didn't know what to do. I again looked at my sis. She was sound asleep. But this time when I turned around, the girl standing on the edge had disappeared. I went to check, and as I came near the edge, I saw towards down my garden and saw the most creepiest scene of my entire life. A woman in a white dress was sitting on the swing, which was attached to the mango tree in my garden, and the swing was moving by itself. She wasn't applying any force, and the wind was not strong enough to have moved the swing. There was an eerie silence everywhere. No sound, nothing. I came back to my bed and started praying to God to make this night end as fast as possible. Every night, there used to be sounds of dogs barking, birds chirping, and so on. But not tonight. It was as if this eerie silence had grasped the whole world. I always had this weird feeling in my room, and I always thought it was just because I was young and afraid of my own shadow, but it never stopped me from locking myself in there and playing music full blast. I always ignored it, but until 4 months and 3 days after my 13th birthday, when I got my computer. I walked into my room, and as soon as I stepped in, I had this sudden wave of depression and sadness come over me. I didn't know what to make of it, so I ignored it and played some music quietly and began putting my birthday cards away so they didn't get damaged. I noticed once I had finished that the music was quieter than I had originally set it to. I turned it up to 76% and turned around to see that all the birthday cards were back in the exact same spot. I was so confused as I put them all the way back and left my room. I wondered if I had actually put the cards away, but no matter what I tried to convince myself of, it didn't make any sense. This is what started me believing in poltergeists. Nothing else happened for the rest of that day. The next day, after school, I walked into my room and saw that my music was on again, and my clock was set 3 hours behind. I knew that it was right that morning. I freaked out and walked out of my room. About an hour later, I went back into my room to do my homework and saw my computer and clock were the same as when I left earlier. I turned off the computer and reset the clock and sat on my bed to finish my homework. Once I finished, the strange feeling washed over me again, so I thought to play more music. This seemed to calm the feeling. Then, all of a sudden, a feeling of pure hate washed over me, and I stormed out of my room and slammed the door closed. As soon as it was closed, the feeling went away. That night, I woke up at 9:57 p.m., and I saw the pale face of a woman staring down at me in the darkness. Instinctively, I thought it was my mom. "Mom?" I said. The face smiled at me, then disappeared. I got up and turned on the light and saw that my cards were stacked next to my bed on the table and tied together with a ribbon. I turned on my laptop and saw that Microsoft Word was open. There was a message typed on it in the font Lucidia handwriting, and it said thank you. To this day, it still confuses me who the woman was. This is a true story that happened tonight. I was running around the house with my little brother. I was trying to get away from him because he kept jumping on me and I was trying to write. I ran upstairs into the small hallway. I was standing in front of my grandmother's room, which was already open and the lights were off. I was standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at my brother, saying something to him. Then I just happened to look over into my grandma's room. When I did, I heard something growl loudly. It didn't sound like an animal or any electronic device, such as an air conditioner or radio. It sounded like a human growling, as if they were mad. I looked into the dark room, a little shocked. It all happened so fast. I ran very quickly down the stairs and knocked my brother out of the way. Soon, I was on the couch telling the story to my grandparents. My papa went upstairs and put a light in my grandma's room. Then, he checked the whole room. There was no animal and no person in there. He came downstairs and told us that there was nothing in the room. So, I'm a little concerned to know what it could have been. I've heard of ghosts or demons growling, but I'm not sure. Please give me your opinion. First, I want to start with some background information. I live in a very small town. There is maybe 100 people in the town. It is very old. The town is shrinking, and some of the lights along the roads are going out or don't work. Recently, someone new moved in very near where I live, and we became great friends really fast, and for some reason, we always have these moments where we have the same exact thought, but only one of us will say out loud. Then the one who did not say it will say, "Dude, I thought the exact same thing." Although this has no relevance to this story, I felt I should include it. This story took place in the short, minute-long walk between our houses, and since the town is so small, I have 2 routes to this house, the road or my backyard. They each take about the same amount of time. Now, for the main part of my story. It was dark out, probably about 9 p.m., and for some reason, I was going to his house and I don't recall why. I might have had to get something, or maybe it was not so late and I was going to hang out with him. But it does not matter because it was dark. I took the road to his house, and for some reason, the walk always gives me chills. The road is lighted, but only at the ends, and sometimes the lights flicker or go out. This one walk was so much more creepy than the rest. I don't understand why it felt so much worse, but it did. Then, I noticed that I had 2 shadows following behind me. Shadow is in my shadows. I would not have found this too odd except for 2 things. 1, the second shadow was not connected to me. 2, the shadows were facing towards the light source. Yes, there is another light on the end of the street behind me, but that was a bit too far away to be casting the shadows I was seeing. Then, just when I was near his house, I thought I heard a young woman's voice, probably around her early 20s, and I had no clue what it was, although I suspected it was laughter. When I got in my friend's house, I vaguely described the experience, and we both laughed. I think he thought I was just overreacting, which I may have been. After that, I kind of blew it off, but every time I take that walk in the dark, I always get a little creeped out sometimes. I will blast music to make the thought go away.